Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane, where the takes have no lies, no bias, but most importantly, no shame. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, with all the shameless sports takes. Jumping straight into it. Well, first of all, you guys could be watching any podcast, any show, any platform right now, but you are tuning into the No Shame with Shane podcast. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Now, jumping straight into it today, there have been some rumors. There have been some rumors, some rumblings in the Twitter sphere, in the NFL universe, that the Eagles are pursuing a pretty significant name this offseason as we kind of get closer to draft night in Jonathan Greenard, Pro Bowl edge rusher on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, according to Adam Schefter, the Vikings basically put Greenard on the trade block just a couple of days ago, fielding different trade offers from different teams, wanting to offload that contract, we're wanting to save a little money, not really seeing his contract as worth it anymore after his kind of dip this past season, in terms of dealing with injuries, not being as productive at rushing the passer, with just racking up 3 sacks this year. But this is a talented guy. Like, we're talking about a guy that has 2 12-sack seasons back to back in 3 years. That is not a name to take lightly. And honestly, for the Eagles, this is honestly a win-win scenario. Like, this is a win for the Vikings, obviously, being able to save money on a contract that they're, obviously shown not really wanting to pay anymore. But then it's also a win for the Eagles because they get much needed talent at that edge spot that is desperately needed. So it's honestly a win-win scenario for both teams. The rumor is that the Eagles are considering trading for Jonathan Greenard, pursuing Jonathan Greenard and willing to trade a day 2 pick to the Vikings for the Pro Bowl edge rusher. Day 2 pick meaning a second round pick, a third round pick, in addition for 5'8" coming off the edge in that midnight green and white. So this is a win-win scenario for both teams, but it's also a win-win scenario for both the player and the team. Jonathan Greenard, talented individual. He would be coming to a team that is ready to win now, that has a Super Bowl caliber roster, a team that will be able to make him into a champion. And the Eagles, on the other hand, they get a player that can help them achieve that goal in terms of being champions. A player that they really need in order to win a Super Bowl in 2027. But Jonathan Greenard makes sense for a lot of reasons for the Eagles. Like, the Eagles should 100%, like, there's multiple reasons why the Eagles should definitely go through in trading for Jonathan Greenard. And, there's multiple reasons why the Eagles should definitely go through in pursuing Jonathan Greenard. One, because he's talented. We're talking about a Pro Bowl guy, really a guy that has an all pro potential, a 12-sack guy, 2 back-to-back 12-sack seasons in 2 years. Just in 2024 had 12.5 sacks. He's also the perfect fit for the Eagles. Perfect scheme fit. Especially with the Eagles losing Jalen Phillips to the Panthers this offseason, he would come in and be an immediate and perfect replacement to fill that void left open by Jalen Phillips' departure. But he also fits the description of the guys that the Eagles normally turn into champions. Like, he's a super talented individual that wasn't able to make it work somewhere else. Team basically gave up on him, not really seeing him worth the money anymore. But, he'll come to the Eagles, and that's the type of talent that the Eagles are able to form into champions. Like, the Eagles do that time and time again. Like, it honestly reminds me of that saying, like, another man's trash is another man's treasure. Jonathan Greenard would definitely fall under that category for the Eagles. He fits the description. Like, a team that, a guy that another team, a former team, would give up on is the same guy that the Eagles would be able to turn into a champion, a guy that would be a vital piece to a Super Bowl winning defense, Super Bowl or offense, either or, a Super Bowl winning unit. So he's not only talented, he not only is a perfect scheme fit, perfect fit for the squad, but he also fits the description of the guys that Howie Roseman and this front office are experienced in developing and winning with in the end. So there's a lot of reasons why Jonathan Greenard makes sense for the Eagles. Like, but the first thing that comes to mind is one reason why the Eagles should definitely trade for Jonathan Greenard is that he would be the perfect replacement for Jalen Phillips. Perfect replacement. Like right now on that D line, on that front set for the defense, other than Jalen Carter, there is no one that offenses like have to consider double teaming right now. Like Jalen Carter right now is an easy double team because there's no one else that they really have to worry about. Like they're like all like O lines aren't worried about double teaming Jordan Davis right now. O lines aren't worried about double teaming Jalen Hunt right now. They're not worried about double teaming Nolan Smith right now. Jonathan Greenard could attract that type of attention. Like having Jonathan Greenard on that D line on that front, it would create more one-on-one opportunities for Jalen Carter 100%. Because with Jonathan Greenard coming off the edge, you can't afford to double team Jalen Carter all day. Especially you can't afford to. Because if you double team Jalen Carter all day, that's gonna free up Jonathan Greenard to just have a field day. Like he's gonna have plenty of one-on-one opportunities against the tackle, but then he may end up having a one-on-one opportunity against a tight end or a running back. You do not like offenses don't want to be in a situation where they have to rely on their tight end or running back to get to block or get a chip on Jonathan Greenard and stop him from getting a sack. O-line offenses won't want to do that. So having Jonathan Greenard on that D line, it creates more one-on-one opportunities for Jalen Carter. And that's something we need because right now, Jalen Carter is an easy double team, especially being at that D tackle, interior D line position, being at that 3-tech, being at that 3-tech 1-2-I position. Like he's an easy double team right now. Having Jonathan Greenard in the mix, coming off that edge, being a part of that D line, it'll free up Jalen Carter to just be a natural game wrecker and to just be able to make more plays and exploit more one-on-one opportunities. Because Jalen Carter in a one-on-one situation is a dangerous human being. Dangerous human being. So like having Jonathan Greenard, acquiring Jonathan Greenard, it'll create more assignment issues for offensive lines. Because right now, like I said, there is no one that offensive lines really are worried about or necessarily have to worry about right now other than Jalen Carter. There's no one that really warrants to them extra attention other than Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is the only person on the D line right now that is attracting double teams. You put Jonathan Greenard in that mix, O-lines can't do that anymore. O-lines can't do that anymore. So that now presents more one-on-one opportunities for everyone. Not just Jalen Carter, but now you have more one-on-one opportunities for Jalen Hunt. You have less attention now on Jordan Davis. So now like having Jonathan Greenard really just puts Vic Fangio in a position where he can just let his dogs be dogs and go get the quarterback. He can let his dogs be dogs and wreck the pocket, wreck the offense. Like he can have more fun up front, run stunts up front. Like he wouldn't even have to do much with his linebackers. It would honestly look like the Super Bowl. Like there were no blitzes ran from the Eagles on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It was just a lot of stunts up front, loops, twists, like there's a lot of stunts up front with the D line that honestly made it a very long night for Patrick Mahomes. That's what Vic Fangio would be able to do with Jonathan Greenard on this D line. So Jonathan Greenard would be the perfect replacement for Jalen Phillips. But Jonathan Greenard, he wouldn't only be like the Eagles should 100% pursue Jonathan Greenard because he wouldn't only be the perfect replacement for Jalen Phillips, but he would also be an upgrade. Like Jalen Phillips has never had a 12-sack season in his career, even when he was healthy. Jonathan Greenard has not only had a 12-sack season, he's had two of them back-to-back. Like, there's a reason why Jonathan Greenard has that Pro Bowl label. And I know nowadays Pro Bowl selections are starting to mean less and less because of just how unserious it's getting. But Jonathan Greenard is one of those dudes that definitely deserved his selection. Like, Jonathan Greenard is a through and through, true, legit 12-sack guy. Like, when it comes to at least rushing the passer, Jonathan Greenard is definitely an upgrade from Jalen Phillips. Like, Jalen Phillips may be better against the run, you could say, I guess. But when it comes to rushing the passer, there's no argument. Greenard would be an upgrade, but not only an upgrade, he would be a cheaper upgrade as well. So we would not only be getting an upgrade in Jonathan Greenard, but it would also be a cheaper upgrade, a cheaper option as opposed to Jalen Phillips. Like, that's having a 12 sack guy. We would be getting a 12 sack guy for 70 mil as opposed to Jalen Phillips for 120 mil. Like, that's just good business. That's good business. So the Eagles should 100% be willing to trade for Jonathan Greenard 100%. Not only, but another reason why Jonathan Greenard makes perfect sense for Philly is because he would fit Vic Fangio's scheme. Like, Vic Fangio, he runs a 4-2 cover 3, cover 4 type of base defense with that umbrella coverage out deep, 3 high safeties, like Vic Fangio, of course, has shown he's not someone that likes to blitz his linebackers. Vic Fangio needs a strong pass rush in order to orchestrate and operate his defense fully, to his full, to his full scheme. Having Jonathan Greenard on the D line would allow him to do that, because it would create, having Jonathan Greenard on the D line with Jalen Carter, with Jalen Hunt, the way he looked the second half of the season, with Jordan Davis, with Moro Ojomo in that mix, having Jonathan Greenard in that unit would allow Vic Fangio to operate this defense where he could still put significant pressure on the opposing quarterback while not having to really blitz his linebackers. His linebackers could just play at depth, play quarters, just really utilizing their athleticism in against the pass, when looking at Zach Bond and Jahad Campbell. Like, Jonathan Greenard is the perfect scheme fit for a Vic Fangio defense. Because right now, Vic Fangio can't just rely on the pass rush ability alone of the D-line to rattle a quarterback the way it's structured right now. Like, with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Jalen Hunt, Nolan Smith, Moro Ojomo in the mix, Vic Fangio can't just lean on that front specifically to create enough pressure on a passer to where he doesn't need to blitz Jahad Campbell or Zach Bond in the flow of the game. If he's able to add Jonathan Greenard to his defense, he would be able to operate a true Vic Fangio scheme and unit to where he wouldn't need to send extra help to rattle a quarterback. All he would need to do is just let his front dogs be dogs. Just let his front forward be dogs. Let Jonathan Greenard, Jalen Carter, Jalen Hunt, and Jordan Davis / Moro Ojomo go get the quarterback, and let Jahad Campbell and Zach Bond chill in coverage. Having Jonathan Greenard would allow Vic Fangio to operate a true and effective Fangio defense. 100%. A true and effective Fangio defense. Like, Vic Fangio having Jonathan Greenard on his unit, having Jonathan Greenard for a full season would allow him to make most games look like the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. If you remember the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, the Eagles didn't blitz Patrick Mahomes a single time. One of the few times in NFL history where a defense completely obliterated an offense the way we did without having to blitz the quarterback a single time. This defense would consistently be able to create significant pressure on a quarterback without having to blitz a quarterback often, because of the pressure that Jonathan Greenard would be able to generate in combination with the rest of the talent that we have on the D-line. Like, a D-line with Greenard and Jalen Hunt coming off the edge, and Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on the interior, or Moro Ojomo on the interior of the D-line, Vic Fangio would be able to still have that umbrella coverage out deep, that cover 3, cover 4 sort of set with 3 high safeties, and still have his super athletic linebackers in coverage, sort of either playing QB spy or playing quarters. He would be able to still create pressure on the quarterback while still freeing up his other personnel to do their jobs in coverage. Like, Vic Fangio having Jonathan Greenard on his team is dangerous for the league. It's honestly dangerous for the league. It's super dangerous for the league. And it would look very similar to that Super Bowl against the Chiefs because of what an Eagles D line could look like with Greenard. Vic Fangio having a Jonathan Greenard on his D line. There are a lot of games the Eagles could play this year that could look like that Super Bowl against the Chiefs, in terms of how our defense would be able to shut down and rattle an opposing offense. So Greenard would be the perfect fit, the perfect acquisition for the Eagles, not just because he's talented, not just because he has a solid resume, not just because he would fit one of our biggest needs, but because he's a perfect schematic fit for our defensive coordinator specifically. Our defensive coordinator who likes to just let the D-line be the D-line without having to play the linebackers sort of out of position, or using linebackers unnecessarily in having to send his linebackers all day in a blitz. He would it would just allow him to utilize the talent of the defense to their fullest capabilities, allowing our linebackers to be freaks of nature in coverage, in open field, in space, allowing our DBs, our secondary, to play a fully blanket coverage, with the addition of Tariq Woolen at that opposite corner position. Like, Vic Fangio adding a Jonathan Greenard to his defensive line is the perfect schematic fit, and would honestly be a problem for the entire NFL. It would be a problem because that's a dangerous combination. Vic Fangio's scheme and the pass rushing talent of Jonathan Greenard, that's honestly a combination that the Eagles cannot pass up on. Howie Roseman needs to make that happen. He needs to make that happen. He definitely needs to make that happen. Honestly, the Eagles acquiring Jonathan Greenard, it would honestly remind me of when the Eagles acquired Hassan Reddick in 2022. Like, the Eagles, that's honestly the last time the Eagles had a pass rusher, an edge rusher of that caliber. The last time they acquired a guy of that caliber in the offseason was when they acquired Hassan Reddick from free agency. And when the Eagles acquired Hassan Reddick in free agency, that resulted in the D-line putting up 70 sacks on the season, which is third all-time ever in the NFL. Really giving them, by default, an all-time defense in the NFL. Resulted in a Super Bowl trip, and Hassan Reddick was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate that year with 16 sacks. So if Hassan Reddick can come in and have that sort of immediate impact on an Eagles defense, imagine what Jonathan Greenard would be able to do, the impact that he would be able to come in and make, considering that he has a higher ceiling than Hassan Reddick because of his talent, his body build, his just overall ability as an edge rusher, playing with similar talent on the D-line in Jalen Carter, another guy with an incredibly high ceiling, Jalix Hunt, who showed huge improvement during last season, and then guys like Jordan Davis or Moro Ojomo, who can be key situational players. Like, if Hassan Reddick can come in and do what he did, imagine what Jonathan Greenard would be able to come in and do. Like, that's honestly what it reminds me of. Like, the Eagles D-line acquiring that's honestly what it reminds me of. If the Eagles were to acquire Jonathan Greenard this offseason, I feel like this D-line would be capable of putting up all-time sack numbers like what we were able to do after bringing in Hassan Reddick during that offseason in 2022. Because it's honestly a similar situation, because that's the last time we've had an edge rusher of that caliber for a full season. The last time the Eagles acquired an edge rusher of Jonathan Greenard's caliber and had him for a full season was when they acquired Hassan Reddick in 2022. After they acquired Hassan Reddick in 2022, that resulted in 70 sacks on the year, ranking record for third all-time sack numbers in the history of the NFL, resulting by default in having an all-time defense in the NFL, leading to a Super Bowl trip, and made Hassan Reddick a Defensive Player of the Year candidate that year with 16 sacks. That's the last time we had an edge rusher of this caliber. So if Hassan Reddick could come in and do that, if the Eagles can do that with Hassan Reddick, imagine what we would be able to do with a guy like Jonathan Greenard, who honestly has a higher ceiling than Hassan Reddick because of his talent, his athleticism, his ability, but also his build. Just being more of a talented player, build-wise, body-wise. Longer arms, taller, longer legs, a little bit of a quicker burst, a little more bend to him. Like, imagine what the Eagles could do. Imagine what Vic Fangio and this Eagles defense could do with Jonathan Greenard, considering what this defense did with Hassan Reddick. It's honestly scary. It's honestly scary. Like the Eagles having a full season with Jonathan Greenard could honestly like feed everybody's families. But if the Eagles were to acquire Jonathan Greenard and have him for a full season, I think it does two things. One, I think the Eagles could potentially have an elite edge rushing duo with Greenard and Jalen Hunt. Like, look at how much Jalen Hunt improved within one season, just having Jalen Phillips for half a season. Like Jalen Hunt before Jalen Phillips was near invisible. I think he maybe had one sack during that entire first half of the season. Jalen Phillips comes in, and now all of a sudden, Jalen Hunt is now the sack leader for the Eagles, and he's the interception leader for the Eagles. Like, you saw a flick of the switch within Jalen Hunt when he had that help coming off the opposite edge. Imagine what Jalen Hunt could do with a full season with a guy like Jonathan Greenard. A full season with Jonathan Greenard, there's no, like, a full season with these two playing together, there's no telling the type of terror that this edge rush duo will be able to inflict on opposing quarterbacks. There's honestly no telling. Like, a full season, having Jonathan Greenard for a full season on the field with Jalen Hunt, this could potentially be a top 5 edge rushing duo in the NFL in 2027. But something else that having Jonathan Greenard for a full season would do as well is it would also give the Eagles a potential top 5 overall pass rushing duo, or just a top 5 overall D-line front 4 duo in Jalen Carter and Jonathan Greenard. Like, a duo with Jalen Carter and Jonathan Greenard for the entire season, that is, bro, they're like, O-lines are not safe. O-lines would have no answer for that. You can't double team Jalen Carter because now that leaves you open to being exposed by Jonathan Greenard. And you can't double team Jonathan Greenard because then that opens up Jalen Carter. But then you also got to worry about Jalen Hunt, who can be liable to expose to get to a quarterback as well. Then you got to worry about Jordan Davis, who can collapse the pocket. You got to worry about Moro Ojomo, who can also slip between those cracks in the A gap or B gap. Like, there is no telling what this D-line, what this front four could look like with having Jonathan Greenard for a full season. Like, we're not talking like this D-line. This D-line looked vastly. This D-line went from being bottom 25 to top 5 in just half a season with Jalen Phillips. Imagine what this D-line could look like with a full season with Jonathan Greenard, who is a better pass rusher than Jalen Phillips. If they look like a top 5 defense in just half a season with Jalen Phillips, imagine what this defense could look like, let alone the D-line could look like with a full season with Jonathan Greenard. A full season with Jonathan Greenard, there's no telling what this defense could be capable of in 2027 if the Eagles do pursue and end up trading for Jonathan Greenard. There's no telling. But, like, honestly, another reason why the Eagles should pursue Jonathan Greenard is because the Eagles honestly need Greenard to stay competitive and be on par with the D-lines just in the division alone. Like, the NFC East probably has the toughest competition D-line wise out of the entire NFL. Like, you look at the D-line talent in the NFC East alone, it's probably the toughest competition you'll see out of anywhere else in the NFL. Like, you look at the Giants, they arguably have the most talented D-line in the entire league with Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. Then you look at the Cowboys, who were super active this offseason on the defensive side of the ball with Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, arguably the best D tackle duo in the league. You have they just brought Rashawn Gary in from the Packers, an underrated pass rusher. They have Donovan Ezaraku, who was a standout rookie for them last year, just like I said he would be leading up to last year's draft. Then you look at the Commanders, Deron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, Adafe Owe, who they just acquired, who had 7 sacks in 12 games last year. Clavon Chason coming off a Super Bowl trip, automatic starter, 10-sack guy. Dietrich Wise, who was their sack leader last season before he got hurt. Like, the Eagles need Jonathan Greenard not only to just improve their defense, but just to keep their D-line competitive and on par with the D-lines around the division. Like, so Jonathan Greenard would not only succeed in Philly, but like, Jonathan Greenard not only needs Philly to succeed, but the Eagles honestly need Greenard just to stay competitive in the division when we're talking D-line wise, defensive wise. So like, the Eagles 100% need Jonathan Greenard in order to stay on par and stay on track with the moves that the other teams just in the division alone have made on their front four groups. And that's not even counting the rest of the NFC. Like the 49ers, for example, Nick Bosa coming back. Like, if they stay healthy, Nick Bosa, Michael Williams coming off the edge. They have Osa Ogaziwa. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his name. Osa Ogadeziwa over from the Cowboys, who's obviously one of the better D tackles in the league right now. Alfred Collins, who honestly had a standout year this past year in 2025. Like, just like, not even just the division alone, there is significant D-line talent. But then when you start to branch out to the rest of the conference, it gets even, the competition gets even deeper. So the Eagles 100% should pursue Jonathan Greenard this offseason, whether it's leading up to the draft, whether it's on draft night. Like, there's so many reasons why Jonathan Greenard makes sense for the Eagles. It's hard to see a reason why Howie Roseman in this front office would want to pass up on Jonathan Greenard, considering what we would be able to retain in pursuing him, like what the asking price is. Like, the asking price is doable, just a day 2 pick, but then also the contract that the Eagles would be absorbing in bringing in Jonathan Greenard is also something that we can afford according to our salary cap. Like, the Eagles have a top 5 salary cap in the NFL right now with $33 million. So like, the Eagles chose to save money on Jalen Phillips, which was a good business decision. But now they can use some of that money that's left over and getting an even better pass rusher for cheaper. So yeah, Jonathan Greenard is a must-do move for me if I was in that front office. I think he would automatically come in and have an immediate impact on this Eagles team that would translate to winning, that would translate to results, that would translate to playoff success. So that's Jonathan Greenard is definitely a must for me in terms of acquisitions for the Eagles this offseason. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, and I will be back later on with more shameless takes.